one of the biggest issues with every client that I haven't really found one who I think truly, fully accepts their own sexuality. Almost every guy, I forgot to take off my glasses, right? I'm not looking at anything on the computer. I don't have to fucking see. You just have to see me in all my fucking prettiness. Every guy that I know, not just client, almost every guy that I know, struggles with sexuality and embracing and accepting his own sexuality. And it manifests in so many different ways. It manifests in a fear to approach girls, right? It manifests in your willingness to make a move on a girl and to invite a girl home, to make a dirty joke, to check a girl out and maybe linger a little bit with your eye contact, not creepily staring at her, but, like really just blatantly check a girl out, right? Or tell a girl how you feel. You are really sexy. Because when you do these things, right, like tell a girl she's really sexy, what you're saying is, by the light of my eyes, and Mr. Johnson down there is telling me to tell you, because he's kind of, talking for you. He's telling you he likes it. I think you look good. You look sexy. You look beautiful. You're pretty. What you're essentially saying is, I want to have sex with you, right? That's the end goal of it, right? Now, if you tell your homeboy, damn, you look good in that fucking suit, or, oh, nice outfit, or, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you don't want to smash, right? Because there's no sexual intent behind it. But if you're a dude who's straight talking to a girl and you're like, damn, you look really good, for the most part, there's sexual intent behind it, right? Now, there is a degree or a spectrum of how you express it. Like, God damn, you look sexy, right? Versus, oh, you look really nice today. Yeah, I mean, the second one is definitely a little bit more polite and professional. But there's still a foundation of attraction underlying it, right? To approach a girl, the reason you're approaching her, unless you're genuinely asking for fucking directions, is, I want to fuck you. Like, that's the bedrock of why you were approaching her, right? And it's also the sexual shame or the lack of embracing your sexuality, which is the same thing, is expressed in our misunderstanding, or I think it's an unwillingness. I think people are just too much of a pussy to accept it. That sex, you wanting her pussy and her wanting your dick, is the cornerstone of a relationship with each other. It's not the only stone there, but it's the cornerstones keeping it afloat, right? Because if you lose the cornerstones, right, it tips over, right? It's the cornerstones and the majority of the foundation, to be honest. It's like the entire foundation, okay, of why you're even approaching her or wanting to date her or wanting to marry or have kids. Are you aware of how kids are made? If you haven't had that talk, I can give it to you, okay? You're going to dump a fucking load of cum in her pussy, okay? And then it's going to do some fucking magic and zip, zap, zoop into an egg and then create a zygote. I think that's what it's fucking called. And then a baby's going to burst out like an alien, okay? 9-ish months later. And, yeah. So sex is like kind of the main thing going on there. Because if it wasn't, you would marry your best friend. Because marriage wouldn't involve any sort of a sexual aspect. But there's a reason we call it marriage. There's a reason we call it a relationship versus a friendship. Is friendship part of it? Sure. Is caring about them, communicating with them, going on journeys with them, trying to improve that. Yeah, of course, all of that, right? But the defining characteristic that makes it unique from all the relationships in your life is that you fuck each other, right? And I think that unwillingness to, I'm not saying we have to discuss it openly and, be a super open society who's just like spreading our fucking business everywhere. I'm not saying that either, right? But there's definitely a lot of shame and fear and guilt around it. Now, the reason why that is, like why who is guilty for men being ashamed of their sexuality? My clients, my friends, or myself, not embracing the male side of sexuality, which is this penetrating, aggressive energy, right? Whereas for women, it's the inviting, receiving energy, which involves being all cutesy and sexy and kind of inviting the guy to come, and the man's like, right? These are polar energies that are complementary and work together, right? Whole object, penetration, receiving, the penetrator and the penetrated, okay? Obviously, men and women can have aspects of the other polarity, right? Men can be feminine and vice versa. But for the most part, especially if you're straight, you're having the majority of those energies. But even in gay relationships, I've paid very close attention to the ones that I know of, and there tends to always be that polarity still there, funnily enough, right? It's just manifested on the level of personality only rather than, because you don't have the hardware. But the guilty party, I would say, in creating this shame can't be reduced to just one person, right? Because you could say, oh, it's women, or you can say, oh, it's men, or you could say, oh, it's the government, or oh, it's parents, or oh, it's this. I think there's a lot of different parties who have... Here, I'll give you an example, okay? Now, this is going to be very strange, but it totally makes sense, okay? And it's just to teach you that there is multiple parties with self-interests and different outcomes depending on how restrained or unrestrained male sexuality is, or vice versa, female sexuality. We're essentially going to discuss the same thing: sexual shame and accepting your own sexuality, right? I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he works in the healthcare industry, and he does like programming, but he has to obviously be aware of regulations and shit around healthcare. And we kind of got into a discussion of the ethics of it all, right? The healthcare provider, the hospital or the doctor, then so that's two parties, and then the third, the maker of a drug or a treatment, and then the patient, right? So you have a few different parties in mind. And as we got into discussion, he kind of started to tell me a lot of things about how, like, basically he's like, yeah, health insurance companies are definitely evil in a lot of cases, but he's like, they didn't just get there by accident and by greed. He's like, people abuse the system so much that they had to create so many safeguards to protect themselves. Otherwise, what's the reason for them even existing, right? Because people were just taking advantage of it. Or, the doctors and the hospitals want to get, a bunch of money. Or the pharmaceutical companies or whatever is, creating a treatment or an equipment also wants to get paid for their work, right? People aren't just sitting there making new drugs or new equipments and MRI machines and because for fuck whatever, just because it's fucking fun. They might have compassion involved in their motivation, but they also, want to eat and want to go on vacations, and they want to do what they want in their life, right? Everyone has their selfish motivations. So I asked him, I was like, so it's not really as simple as just like flip a switch and, it's fair now. He's like, no, because the moment you make it fair to one person, now this other person's getting fucked. Right now, the health insurance company is getting fucked over. Well, what's their fucking incentive to keep providing service of that level, right? They're going to lower their service because they can't charge as much, or, but then the patient's getting fucked over. Well, then the fucking hospital's getting fucked over and can't function and can't pay for all the doctors. And, right, there's so many different parties who have differing interests, right? And it's very difficult to say one person is guilty. The same thing when it comes to sexual shame and repression of sexuality, okay? So there's a lot of different parties involved here, right? So there's men. Men have a benefit and a con to men being very virile and open with their desire to fuck women, right? Let's assume every guy is just like, hey, what's up, girl? Da da da. Like, no shame, no sort of barriers. Now, let's not take it to the like crazy extreme, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? We're just talking about the willingness to express it and express interest confidently, and not be ashamed of the fact that I have a dick and I want to stick it into him. And generally, I want to be a little bit assertive and aggressive with it because it's fun, right? Let's say that's the case. There's the benefit of the fact that we're not sitting here like pussies, like, oh, yeah, well, I wonder if I want to go talk. No, like, oh, damn, she looks hot. I'm going to go talk to her. Boom, right? I accept the fact that that is my type of sexuality, and I'm the aggressive penetrator in this sexual dance. So I'm going to go up and approach her and then shoot my shot. That's great for a lot of guys, but it's not good for the guys who don't provide a lot, who don't have game, who don't have charm, who don't have good looks or height or a big dick or money or status, whatever is edging their advantage over the rest of the competition. So actually, a lot of men in this world have a lot of stock. They have bought a lot of long-term options in men being restrained in their sexuality. Because if men are restrained in their sexuality by culture, social shaming, or even laws, they are going to increase their own chances of succeeding at dating. Basically, they will improve their chances of getting pussy, okay? Because if it's just dog-eat-dog world, there's going to be a certain amount of men who are just going to clean the fuck up and take all the bitches. And these dudes are going to be left with the scraps or fucking nothing, right? But if you have a society that has some fucking restraints on male sexuality, then maybe they have a chance. Because otherwise they're just going to be outcompeted. And they either don't have the knowledge to make themselves better, right? There's no one out here teaching this shit, right? I mean, this isn't a very common type of education on how to, seduce women, right? You have Ovid's Ars, whatever, what the fuck was it called? Ovid Ars Amatoria, right? So Ovid, he was this Roman fucking poet, right? 2 AD, and he kind of gave a little bit of a textbook on seduction. You had Casanova, he wrote his memoirs. He dropped some truth bombs in there. But it's not a very common teaching because it's something that's very, very closely guarded. There is a lot of oversight when it comes to men's sexuality. And that oversight usually in history takes the form of killing your competition, right? And still goes on to this day. I mean, how many people are literally, as you're listening to these words, being shot or stabbed or whatever because they fucked someone else's bitch or fucked a girl that they wanted. It wasn't even their, girlfriend or wife. How many fights are going to happen right now at some nightclub because some drunk guy is upset that some other guy is talking to a girl or what the fuck ever, right? So there's a lot of interest from men in keeping sexuality a bit under lock and key. There is also a lot of interest from women. You would think that's kind of silly, right? Okay, well, no. I mean, women are the object of it, so wouldn't women want men to be that way because it's what they find attractive? Because it is. They don't want some castrated pussy, right? Well, maybe in some cases they do. Maybe, there's women out there who've been kind of fucked over and they haven't exactly gotten the kind of men that they want. So they do want a guy who's a little bit more easy to control. They want something that's safe. I mean, how many people in this world choose the safe option versus what their optimal option is? And, some cases it's because she's ugly as fuck and she doesn't really have a choice, or she's fucking, whatever. She's not attractive. She's a rampaging bitch who hides behind whatever mental affliction that she claims she has. I have this and I have that, and that justifies my shitty fucking behavior to people. It's like, no, you can't hide behind, your mental problems. Like, I'm sorry you have something wrong with you, but doesn't mean you can treat people like shit. But these people who are either crazy or just unattractive or fucking both, I mean, for the love of God, at least be hot if you're going to be crazy. They don't really have a lot of choice when it comes to men. So maybe they do want a certain population of men who they can, somewhat corral and control. Or even if they're not maliciously trying to like control men, there's a population of loser women who don't really have a lot of choice, generally who just aren't picked, or they're picked only for sex, right? They just get fucked and chucked because the guy really didn't have any other, options at the end of the night. He just wanted to get, his dick wet, and she was happy with it, right? But then she's upset the next morning. That's all she is to a guy, because she doesn't really offer anything more. Fast sex doesn't necessarily mean you're a slut or you're not going to get called back. You just have to offer a better package, right? It's not as simple as, oh, he waited for me, that means I'm special. It's like, there's tons of dudes who will be patient as fuck. Just because you make a guy wait months to get pussy doesn't mean he's not going to disappear the next day. It's a pretty dumb method, but a lot of people fall for it. It does have some effectiveness, but not as much as people would wish. I know, because I've talked to tons of women who tried it on different men, and they come back and tell me, yeah, he made me think I'm special, and then after like 2 months, he left. It's like, well, yeah, because he was just waiting to get pussy, because he doesn't have game, and so it's his only method is to, trick women. But there's women out there who are not, being chosen as long-term partners, or at least not by the men they really want, right? They might get a 5 or a 6, but they really want a guy like that guy or that guy. And, they may not be malicious in, them trying to like, oh, I'm going to like capture this guy and marry him, but then fuck Chad on the side. It's like, not a lot of women are evil like that. It's a pretty small population. They do exist though. But, they kind of don't want men to be too wild, right? They want men to have some sort of tameability that is enforced somehow, because then those men are going to be maybe less likely to fuck them over, or less likely, even if they're not the party involved, they're going to see them, it's kind of like watching everyone rich partying, and then you're sitting over here in your fucking hobo house. And it's like, okay, well, maybe they have a little bit of like regulations over there, and they're not enjoying themselves so much, right? It's just a very light envy, not quite like malicious manipulation. But, there's a lot of women who do have an interest in men being somewhat restrained, to avoid them getting hurt, or just them not being totally jealous of the fact that there's just these men doing whatever they fucking want whenever they want. But a lot of that control is mostly just happening on the surface, right? Because men in power and men with, influence or money or just seduction are going to be in the background doing what they want, right? Hopefully they're doing it with morality, right? Just a guy who wants to fuck a lot of girls, but he's not doing it with any sort of deception. And obviously there's consent and et cetera, obvious things that should be, just understood, but I guess they have to be pointed out for the 1% retard who's watching this and goes, oh, well, you didn't say that, and da-da-da. But I always have these ideas of these people like sitting behind a computer, but I guess you can't really satisfy them anyways, right? Are they even worth addressing? Maybe. I don't know. But the seducers of the world, the guys, the chads who get pussy, right? Or the rich elite who are just going to fuck hookers or, hook up with each other and fucking Illuminati rituals or whatever the fuck is going on, right? Who knows? I'm not part of those circles. But I do know the seducers who can just go anywhere in the world and they're going to get pussy, right? Because I've done it myself. We're going to go out and do what we want, right? Like I said, hopefully with morality, but, it's not always the case, right? A lot of guys out there are deceiving and manipulating. And all they have to do is just not be too open about it, right? And they won't get shamed for it, right? But unfortunately, for a lot of the men who aren't in those circles of power and influence, or they haven't yet earned that skill, that ability to go out and, fuck pretty much whoever they want anytime they want, they are extremely held back by their own shame towards themselves. And there's some self-interest in being self-restrained here. So you have men as a collective, women as a collective have their own interest. Then there is also society and or government that has some interest in men not being totally unrestrained in their sexuality, right? It generally helps to have a nuclear family unit in a society if you want some cohesion, right? Of course, the people who are proposing it very, very seldomly are abiding by it themselves, right? They go on TV and talk about it, but then, they don't actually live by it, but that's a whole nother thing. But the society itself does benefit from, if every dude out there was a seducer, I mean, it would be fucking chaos. It would definitely be chaos. But I think that's what's going on right now. Every guy is attempting to be a seducer, but then eventually the chaff does get separated from the wheat, and people start to learn their place, unfortunately, right? But that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to keep the status quo. I'm here to make you an exception. I'm not going to unplug you from the matrix or some fucking bullshit like that, right? I'm just going to teach you a skill. And a big inhibitor to that skill is you having shame of your sexuality and not accepting your sexuality, because there is a fourth party involved here, right? Men, women, society, and you. You have a benefit, a vested interest in keeping yourself restrained. And that is safety from rejection and safety from pain, right? There is a benefit there, right? There's also a loss, but there is a benefit. And if you recognize that you do have an interest in keeping yourself in a fucking dick cage, then you can approach the issue of sexual shame with a lot more clarity, right? You can realize, I am ashamed of my sexuality, and the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the pussy, or lack thereof, I guess, right? If you are not comfortable approaching women, meaning there's not a lot of fear behind it, right? Because what is approach anxiety? I'm afraid to go talk to her. Why are you afraid to go talk to her? Really? Why are you afraid to go express your interest in her? Because on some fucking level, you think what you're doing is wrong. Yeah, well, what if she doesn't like me? Okay, then you're going to walk up and say, hey, I think you're really cute. And she's going to look at you and then keep walking. And you're going to be like, oh, well, that sucked. Okay. The reason that sucks is because in that moment, what she's basically communicating with that, like, I look at him and then look away and keep walking, or like, sorry, I have a boyfriend, and look at you like you're a fucking leper. She's essentially saying, I am not attracted to you at all, which directly implies, I don't want to have sex with you. And then you might take it further in your own mind and kind of spiral and be like, well, I'm a worthless little bitch who no woman on earth wants, right? Which is absurd, but that's how our mind works. It fucking spirals into all these, like, narratives, right? You having approach anxiety is a direct manifestation of you having shame of your own sexuality. Otherwise, you would have no problem walking up to girls and trying. Zero. You'd be like, oh, excuse me, I'd like to have sex with you. Would you like to have sex with me? Which is what you're essentially doing when you approach a girl. I'm just, kind of being funny. Hey, I think you're really cute. What's your name? No? Okay, cool. Hey, you're really cute. What's your name? Huh. Maybe I need to, like, work on the way I'm doing this, right? And add a little bit of charisma and add a little bit of sexiness and, learn how to observe when a girl's interested before I go talk to her. Maybe that'll improve my chances of getting a good reception. All of these skills that we call seduction skills, approach skills, conversation skills, listening skills. Did I say observation skills? I might have. Having the right ideas about how women work and how men work and how your own mind works and how people communicate, all these little intricate skills that are under the umbrella of what we call communication and seduction skills, right? That would be a separate issue than just this full willingness to go approach. But you have shame around your sexuality, and you have a vested interest in continuing to do that because it prevents you from continuously reliving that shame by being confronted by rejection. Every time you're rejected, it is a reminder that this girl didn't want your dick, and she would not want to procreate with you. And it hurts. And then it gets really complicated because then you actually develop ideas about sexuality, right? Ideas that keep you restrained, right? The only things that should be keeping you restrained are the obvious ones, right? Consent, not lying and deceiving women, And generally having an idea that, I have goodwill towards women. I want them to benefit from having met me, whether it's just a nice conversation, an orgasm, or even a lovely relationship together for however long it lasts, right? Or she just smiles because I gave her a compliment and I made her day, right? You have some sort of a goodwill behind your intentions towards women. As long as you have those things, I mean, really the only important ones are the first two ones, consent and you're not lying or deceiving. The third one is just an extra thing. I advise you have it, but, I can't force you to feel that way, right? But I would highly advise it because it actually makes you more effective too. Makes women, trust you more and accept you more. But it has to be sincere because for the most part, well, I don't know. Women aren't always the best judge of character, but they definitely are at the same time really good judges of character. Usually when the women are like getting fucked over by guys, it's because the guy has a lot of like charm and sexiness, but then he's just a piece of shit, right? But if you don't have any charm and sexiness, then your piece of shitness is very on display. But yeah, that's a whole different discussion. But it will make you better with women if you also have goodwill towards them, right? And you love women. But unless, as long as you have those two or hopefully that three, go and fuck who you want. Do what you want, dude. I mean, is there some negatives to, being a hedonistic, fiend and just fucking a bunch of girls? Yeah, but you're going to naturally just hit that maximum, right? Some dudes just have a higher sex drive and a higher threshold of girls they want to fuck, right? Those are the guys who are going to fuck 100 girls or a couple hundred girls or 1,000 girls, whatever. And then you have guys who are going to fuck like 15 girls and then be like, all right, cool. I've had my fun. I'm totally fine with, getting a wife now and starting a family. Or it might be 20, or it might be 50, or it might be 5. I don't fucking know, right? You're going to hit your natural maximum, right? But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the promiscuity in and of itself, unless it's taken to it starts to hurt the rest of your life or hurt how you treat people, right? But as long as you're open and honest with people and you're not deceiving them, then, there's going to be hurt feelings that can never be escaped, even if you are a super monogamous arranged marriage guy. There's still going to be hurt feelings in the relationship, right? As long as there is attachment and desire involved, there's going to be suffering. It's just the nature of reality, right? Until you pull out that thorn of attachment and desire, and then you never have any suffering at all because you have no desires. Voila. But you don't really gain anything from sexual shame. You only gain things from restraint when, obviously, you're in a situation where a girl is not comfortable moving to a next step, right? Or, when in the dance of seduction, right, you're giving a little bit too much energy and then you have to pull it back. Not out of any, like, you're being aggressive or weird, but just like you're showing too much interest, right? So you have to learn restraint in order to actually get yourself towards the goal. Or vice versa. You're too restrained and now you need to express yourself. But I would say, honestly, most men are too restrained in their expressiveness. And I think if you were to examine the shame surrounding your sex and whatever beliefs and ideas and philosophies you have surrounding it, examine it considering everything that I've gone over in this video and start to embrace your sexuality. Start to accept that energy that is dominating. Like, you like to see a beautiful girl, with her ass up and her back arched and her pretty face looking back at you, and she looks so sweet and innocent, and you just want to fuck the shit out of her and just destroy her. Right? That's male sexuality. It's that very like I just want to, right? Whereas female sexuality is the desire to have that energy come into them, right? To be used, right? To have their holes abused. Like, yes, they're going to be soft at first usually and work their way up, but at the end of it, like, they want to be being fucked really hard and they're into it. And if you have had sex with enough women and have gone into that sexuality with them, you understand that the vast majority, not all women suck my dick, bro, like 99%, right, are going to be into it. If they find a man who makes them want to expose that side to themselves, meaning a guy they're attracted to enough, a man who they trust enough, right, to not judge them, to not talk about it to someone else, etc., right? And to take care of them, right, physically. They have physical safety. And who they have enough of a connection with. Those two things, the trust and the connection, for different girls and in different periods of their life and in different situations, can fluctuate in how much they require. But lust definitely has to be there, because that is the distinguishing quality of why you're having sex with her, as we've gone over, right? But lust is not going to be there to its maximum potential for you as a man if you are hiding it, if you are not expressing it confidently and comfortably. Excuse me, hi, I saw you over here and I just thought you look so good. Right? I'm telling her, like, I want to fuck you, and I'm comfortable saying it. But if I go, excuse me, I think you're really cute, what you're communicating is sexual shame. How are you expecting a girl to be open sexually with you and not feel ashamed of her own sexuality if you aren't even willing to confront your own shame? It doesn't make any sense, right? She's looking for a man who's going to fuck her brains out and open up that side of her sexuality, but you haven't even opened that side of your sexuality. So how is that polarity relationship going to be consummated? It's pretty fucking obvious when you think about it, right? But no one is sitting around thinking about this shit, because I don't know what you guys are doing with your life. Sometimes I fucking don't understand. Like, I play so many fucking video games and fuck around so much of my life and still found time to think about these things and work and do things. Like, people just waste a lot of time. But totally different subject. You have to embrace your sexuality. How you do that? Man, there's so many different ways. I mean, like, allow yourself to have fantasies, right? Of domination and of aggressive sex, like your ideal sex, right? Envision women, while, yes, you care about her if she's a person and you would never violate her safety or whatever, yeah. But imagine them just getting fucked and just being fucking total whores, right? And just being your walking fleshlight. Like, embrace that you actually have that desire. Because that's what she ends up wanting to do in the end when she finally is okay with it, right? When she is seduced, when she says yes. That's what she's going to eventually want, right? So you get out of your own sexual shame, a lot of ways, by envisioning the other side of sexuality that you want, because the male and the female sexuality are complementary. They're not just going to happen in and of itself. You're not just sitting there jerking off to nothing, right? You're jerking off with the thought that there is another party who's going to join you and match the positive and negative energies, right? So you're going to need that other energy to create it, right? So start seeing women in a sexual light. Start thinking of women sexually, viewing them sexually. Oh, well, you're objectifying women. Fuck you. Okay, yeah, I am. So what? So what? Yeah, of course I'm objectifying them in this moment, right? It's not a 24/7 goddamn thing. It's not like, I'm not going to, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. You're a walking fleshlight. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, yeah, in this moment, I'm treating you like a sexual being because that's what the point of this interaction is, right? If I go to McDonald's and I order a Big Mac from the dude across, on the other side of the fucking cashier desk, I don't wish any ill upon him. I don't think he's a piece of shit out of this. But right now, the only reason we're interacting is because I'm going to give him money and tell him something, and he's going to throw a Big Mac in my face so I can fucking gobble it down and shit it out later, right? That's the point of our interaction, okay? So I walk up to homegirl on the street and I say, hey, excuse me, I want to fuck your pussy. What I'm communicating in my words. And she's going to go, you know what? I will consider your offer. Let's go drink coffee from across each other and interview each other on if I'm going to suck your dick and let you use me in all my holes, right? And then I'm going to obviously enjoy it because that's what I want, because it fucking turns me on to have a big hard cock, in all of my holes, thrashing back and forth. I'm treating you sexually because that is the point of why we're even meeting in the first place. Of course, am I going to care about you as a person? And then eventually, as our relationship evolves, I'm going to care more and more about you. That's a relationship, right? It's not just sexuality, but sexuality is the foundation of it, right? So start focusing on it. Start thinking about women sexually. Start making moves, right? And then when you are rejected, or like there's the kind of like not quite a rejection, but not quite an acceptance, then play that dance. Back off, go in, back off, go in, back off, right? A lot of the seduction is just that adapting to the yeses and the nos. And then if the no becomes firm at the end, okay, then you go and try it with a different girl. And if you get a yes, then you go in and you fuck it until you can't anymore, right? That's how you deal with sexual shame, is going into your mind and starting to accept it. I mean, you can do it in so many different ways. It's done in the actions of just approaching more girls. You're eventually going to like lose your sexual shame as long as you're doing it intentionally. You're like, why am I ashamed? Why am I scared of this? Why no. Now, other people are going to have this sexual shame, and you're going to have to persist even in the face of it, right? Oh, man, you should really settle down. No, you should settle down when you're ready to settle down with the person that you're happy to settle down with. You don't have to be a slave like the rest of these fucking peasants, right? But it's also done internally. Envisioning girls as just rampaging horrors that are just born to be bred by you. Yeah, is that an extreme statement that could be clipped and made into something really dumb and silly to make me look bad? Sure, right? But I've contextualized it fucking endlessly in a 36 fucking minute video, probably 40-minute video, right? But not everyone on this earth is smart enough to know how to do that. Most people are fucking brain dead retard monkeys, right? So, start to self-reflect on a lot of your ideas and embrace your sexuality. And when you start to embrace your sexuality, women are going to fucking smell it on you. Women can smell a man who embraces his sexuality and is open with it because he's very comfortable. He has a very different air about him, especially when they're around the girl, because she can see the contrast. Wow, this guy's really comfortable around me. Like he's really calm and smooth, and he has no problem like expressing himself, right? And he's showing interest in me. Oh, he touched me on my knee, and I like that. And she starts to react and starts to get turned on, right? But then she sees other guy B over here, and he's like, oh, hey, how are you? Right? Or he's the other extreme. He's like, oh, hey, baby. Oh, yeah. And she's like, oh, fuck, this guy can't read signals at all, right? But this guy, he's somewhere in the middle, right? He's not totally unrestrained, but he's not totally a slave either, right? He knows how to weave in and out between the extremes. That's what women want. But at the end of the day, when you guys are fucking, she wants to be fucked like a goddamn piece of meat. And if you don't know that and you haven't experienced it, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know women. So go get some more pussy. Or if you already have a girlfriend, then you need to be fucking her better because you're clearly not doing it right. So, yeah. Stop being ashamed of your sexuality. It's not helping anybody. As long as you're guided by ethics, do what the fuck you want. Cool. Hector Castillo, girlchase.com. I can coach you personally if you want to learn all this shit. Sign up for a consultation in the description below. A little sign up form. You click it, put in your information. It sends me an email. I send you an email back. We schedule a call, and we have a little date for 10 minutes and figure out if we should coach together. Right? You give me money, I give you wisdom. Right? This way. You give me money, I give you wisdom. Right? There's an exchange. Right? We're gonna objectify each other. I'll be a source of information, and you will be a piggy bank. But that's because that's how the relationship works. Just like everywhere else in the world, relationships work this way. Hopefully it's guided by genuine compassion and caring for each other as well, but you can't always guarantee that, right? I've definitely had clients who just see me as, like just a fucking source of wisdom, and they give me money and they think, yeah, okay, give me what I want. And it's like, all right, well, that's probably why you suck with women, because you're too much on that extreme of objectifying people, right? There's definitely a subset of guys who need a completely different video than this because they have too much of that extreme. But when it comes to sexuality, a lot of dudes, the reason I made this video is because all dudes struggle with this, right? But then they take it to the extreme in other aspects of their life and don't see the human side of things. But again, that's a totally different video. This would be a 10-hour video. But yeah, coaching, consultation, sign up, description below. YouTube fucking buzzwords. I have a day game course and a texting book you can also get in the description below. That's a good starter pack. It'll get you really going. I mean, it's the framework for how you get success. Just coaching helps you. I just hold your hand while you're doing it. But if you want to get girls, get my day game course, Meet Girls Everywhere. It's in the description, and get my texting book, and you'll be good. Yeah. Anyways, cool. Hector Castillo. That's my name. Yeah. Cool. Love you guys. Go fuck yourself. Bye.